So dudes, in this video I'm going to take some time to explore the phenomenon that seems to be on everybody's minds with the recent addition of Tubarão to the meta. Tubarão has gotten a lot of attention recently, as his ability to disrupt the enemy's playmaking ability at little cost to him seems very, very significant. Not only does one instance of his gadget's disabling and movement slowing ability not only work for a pretty significant amount of time, it works through surfaces of all kinds. A smart Tubarão player is going to use the Zoda canister through walls to slow down a push as much as humanly possible. And without the right tools to cut him off, he can waste a whole minute completely by himself. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but there are only 3 minutes in a round of Rainbow Six Siege, so any character that can successfully hold up the entire attacking team for a third of the action phase is going to be pretty freaking powerful. Not to mention he's got C4. And I don't think I would be pointing out what makes Tubarão so freaking powerful if we weren't contextualizing the bigger picture here. If we weren't taking into consideration that Tubarão has been added in addition to 4 other very, very powerful defenders over the course of a whole year. If we go even as far back as the beginning of Year 7, Season 1, this pattern of adding very powerful defenders again and again and again has continued. I know that seems kind of hard to believe, but Azami got added 2 years ago. We had 2 attackers in a row, Sens and Grim, then Solis at the end of Year 7. So since Year 7, Season 1, we've had Azami, Solis, Fenrir, and Tubarão. Solis and Fenrir are some of the most powerful characters in the game. Azami doesn't get quite as much mileage, but still gets a considerable amount, and Tubarão is going to be joining these ranks pretty soon. The consensus that these characters have contributed to a massive sense of defender power creep is on the minds of many of my friends in the scene. Many of which who play the game pretty seriously. We're talking rank sweats and the like. And the reason it's so frustrating to fight against is because it feels like it punishes you as an attacker for just existing. It feels like your options are getting limited every time a new defender gets added. Fenrir mines, from what I understand, are just not a particularly fun gadget to play against. They're really fun to use, and getting picks with them is really satisfying, but in terms of outplay potential, it's pretty annoying. You can't do much about the Fenrir mines without droning them out and accounting for them ahead of time. But you can't really drone anything with a Solis on the board. You can't drone anything, so you have to face check the roam. Face checking is bad, so you want to bring an aggressive and efficient roam clear. If you bring too much roam clear, you won't have enough to help open the wall. Siege often incorporates cost-benefit analysis, and sometimes it's just too much hassle to overcomplicate it. You're going to do the same thing on defense, and commit to the Solis and Fenrir often if you want to win. Throw Tubarão into the mix, and we'll play it under the right circumstances. There's essentially no counterplay. The closest you're going to get is Maverick, who can cut through a Tubarão wall, sure, but Tubarão's effectiveness doesn't just have to do with denying the wall. He's also a very powerful crowd-controlling operator just in general. Let's combo up a Fenrir with a Tubarão. A Fenrir at the right place and the right time can make a clutch situation for an attacker unwinnable. You might want to play a 1v2 in a certain kind of way, but pushing a door frame makes it impossible for you to take a gunfight you otherwise were normally perfectly capable of doing so if a Fenrir mine is there. And if you don't take advantage of the Fenrir on defense, you're giving the attackers the ability to push quickly and aggressively just about anywhere they want. Now attackers have to be mindful of gadgetry in the immediate room they're in that's going to block their vision, plus the potential of gadgetry that can work not just through soft floors, but hard floors as well that'll slow their movement, as the gadget goes through just about any kind of surface. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that attacking is just a massive pain in the ass. You need a really quick and effective roam clear to get any kind of time to help with your site execute. It seems like defenders just have a lot of gadgets they can spam that have a huge amount of impact at the moment. Azami has a ton of Kibas, Fenrir has a ton of mines, and Tubarão has a ton of canisters he can throw. And Solis, well, she can just shut down the whole drone economy. I look back at Goyo with his deployable shields, and I wonder if he was released right now, if people would say anything. I wonder if the same people who were irritated about his nerf back then would be freaking out about Goyo being added right now. In fact, I think a lot of the problems with Siege balancing just seems to come from that. In my opinion, I think gauging feedback within this community is very difficult. The devs, the casual community, and the competitive community are all playing completely different games. You observe different variables within different experiments based off of the way the data is being collected. And the principles of experimental design become easier to talk about when we contextualize it within the confines of a discussion about game balancing. The devs are employees with a 9 to 5. They're certainly passionate about the product, but at the end of the day, their job is to develop the game. Quality testing only gets so far in the building and basically has to be sent to the wolves, i.e. the gaming public, to get the most useful results. I'm guilty of this too, and sometimes call things way too early because I want to get content out as quickly as possible. The competitive community can only be leaned on so much, because if the competitive community is pulled in a biased way, they're going to want the game influenced in certain directions. We want the NFL to be a neutral arbitrator, right? We all know that's a big freaking meme in reality, but the goal is that when we see favoritism, or what certainly appears like favoritism with NFL officiating, we get angry. By the same logic, we can't allow favoritism in Siege's esports scene, and we can't lean on the casual scene for everything either, because can we please just be 100% honest? Some members of the casual community get offended when you ask them to bring a shotgun instead of the MP5K on mute. The casual community's biggest advantage here, if we were running for Siege president, is that there are a lot of them. That's it. A lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about when they talk about game balancing. But because they outnumber the devs are supposed to listen to them, supposedly. The quality of the argument is irrelevant. What's relevant is how I feel when my character gets changed. That's what's relevant. Siege is caught right in the middle of this tug of war between casual and competitive gaming. I don't blame the devs for just trying to keep the game running. Without content, this game would not have made it. You can say the game should have just not made it, but it did. And you can play it or not play it. You could say, hey, it was fun, but I think it should have been allowed to come to an end. That's valid. You can move on to something else. But what I often find really silly is the propensity for people to complain incessantly about things that plague Siege, and then they act like it only affects Siege. There are lots of things that people talk about that just kind of affect live service gaming in general. And as far as live service gaming is concerned, I think Siege has managed to do a pretty decent job of remaining ethical and keeping a modest but healthy player base. Siege existing and continuing to survive has not hurt anyone. It's not hurt the industry. It's not set a bad precedent. The game is for a particular kind of person, and that particular kind of person is going to play it a lot. So when I say that the game is getting kind of defender power creeped, I'm not trying to make a number of different arguments about corporatism in the gaming industry. I'm not trying to make an argument about how the devs allocate their time, what their priorities are. This is the noise that people say online because they're upset. In reality, any other kind of dev team could be suffering with the same problems that Siege has right now in terms of the scale that they're trying to work with. I don't think Riot, I don't think Amazon, I don't think anyone could manage 70 characters and not have a couple of them be a little bit OP. I just don't think that is possible. That's not a Ubisoft thing. That's just game development. That's just statistics. That's experimental design, just in general. When I look at the finals, the game that everybody's talking about right now, the first thing that I noticed, just a couple abilities. That's it. 3 classes, a couple of movement abilities. No incentive to add new characters with new crap every 3 months. Just a contained, concise, defined experience. And we all know what is going to happen if we address the defender power creep head on and we just start nerfing defenders. If we nerf Fenrir, Azami, Solus, Tubarão, all these characters that you can make an argument for, yeah, these characters should be nerfed. They're a little bit overtuned. We're not stupid, okay? We know exactly what's going to happen. People are going to have a very visceral reaction to that. I call this spreadsheet balancing, right? I've made this joke before. Ubisoft seems to balance their game like they balance a checkbook instead of a game. But to their credit, I don't know how the hell else they're going to do it. If they balance the game around the professional scene, they get accused of esports favoritism. If they balance the game for the casual scene, the game is going to be a mess. If they balance it completely in-house, they're not going to have enough data to go off of. And then we're going to have situations like Grim, where we just release a character that's completely useless. The community's irritated. The game has cheaters. We complain, the game is dying, the game's dying, Rick. What if we go free to play? Well, we can't really do that because of the cheaters. Is the game dying? I mean, it seems to be doing okay. Here's a chart. That chart looks good, right? That's like a dip. No, but see, that's a dip. That means it's dying. Nope, that's one data point. That's a data point. That doesn't, like, I don't know if we need to like get Joe Biden to institute an executive order that says like, if you want to leave a YouTube comment or a tweet reply or just any kind of feedback on the internet at all American citizens have to be required to take Statistics 101. It's the same arguments that we're having about skill-based matchmaking, that we're having about aim assist. Like we see aim assist is, hey, here's an argument for this being a little bit overtuned. You hate controller players. No, that's not what I said. Waffle pancake. Hey, skill-based matchmaking in a pub lobby maybe shouldn't be weighted like a ranked competitive mode. You hate noobs. You want to pwn noobs in pubs. waffle pancake. Hey, defenders are kind of overtuned right now. Solus is really freaking powerful. She shuts down the entire drone economy. Yeah, that's just at your elo, man. Okay, well, what happens at high elo can have reverberating effects throughout the entire ranked economy. Well, rank 2.0 ruined everything. Anyone can hit champ. No, that's not true. Here's data. Here's an article explaining other factors that don't have anything to do with your actual skill level. Here is the data. Here's the curve that explains, hey, champ is still within like 5%, if not 1% of players. I don't care. The vibe is off. Wow, great argument, man. I mean, like, yeah, like my argument when the vibe is off. I mean, hello? What the fuck are we talking about? We're making two arguments at the same time. We're saying that the game is favored towards competitive and pro play, ranked sweats, and it's balanced exclusively for them. And then anyone can hit champ. I don't know how to explain to somebody that this is statistically impossible. This is just kind of where we're at with talking about anything on the internet, and it's bled into the gaming industry. It's bled into gaming. The game's the way it is because it has 70 freaking characters. That's just kind of what there is to it. The only thing you can do to alleviate this is to reduce the amount of gadgetry in general on select operators like this. Tuberal should probably lose a canister. Fenrir should probably lose a mine. Azami should probably lose a Kiba. Solus needs less time on her scanner. You either got to give attackers more efficient options to counter the stuff or remove some of the stuff. Remember that in a game like Siege, the defense is always going to be at an advantage because that's the nature of a shooter game. And the more CCing ability you give to the defense, the easier it's going to be for them to play the TDM meta, and the more difficult it's going to be for the attack. This is because in a defensive posture, you have the benefit of reacting and playing off a contact to what the attackers do. Attackers are expected to be unrelenting and constantly keep the pressure going to make plays happen. Everything they do is based off of information gathering, and information has a short half-life in Siege. It can essentially be useless within a matter of seconds. So it's important for the attack to keep it moving when they get actionable intel on you. But with the recent operators we've had added to the game, it kind of punishes you. It punishes you as an attacker for playing the game properly. And that's frustrating. You can't nade from below anymore. That option, that had admittedly limited counterplay is gone now. So that removes another option attackers used to have. At the end of the day, a lot of competitive players can't be expected to complain too much because that mindset, while not necessarily unintelligent or wrong, can lead to an inefficient work ethic that makes it more difficult to win games. So when competitive players do complain, it's often not in their best interest to do so, and half the time, nobody listens to them anyway. Competitive players will not be expected to talk about the game from an unbiased point of view. They'll be expected to find a solution to not being able to drone anything. Find a solution to not being able to push a room without getting blinded. Find a solution to not being able to take a gunfight on a piece of map terrain they've never had an issue with before. Find a solution to not being able to hold an angle they've never had an issue with before. Over time, the defense just keeps getting more and more puzzle pieces that the attack is supposed to solve, and the attack's primary advantage is supposed to be in the gunfighting department to kind of alleviate this, which leads to complaints about TDM meta. The game has 70 characters right now, and I think this sort of thing is just bound to happen. We've gone from what I'd call the TDM meta to the CCing meta, and it's a pain to play through correctly. You need to learn about several moving parts to make it work, and most people just don't want to do that. It is a very, very tough sell. If we want this game to make it to 100 characters, which at this rate is going to take 7 years, we got to think seriously about how much we want gadgetry to play an impact in the gameplay loop. I don't think it would be a bad idea to give players the ability to make custom game modes that allowed us to tune certain settings and turn certain aspects on and off. Perhaps make our own balance mods, just so we can get more ideas in the pot and see if we can put our minds together. But that's just me. One of the things that made a game like Halo stand out was its sandbox. I know a lot of people think that I hate Halo based off of some tweets I made, but I've actually used Halo as an example to talk about how you can have a casual and a competitive community exist side by side. The reason infighting is just that, it's recent. Its ability to have a casual and a competitive scene worked alongside each other to make the game what it was. Its modularity is what made the sandbox work. But I know how Halo fans seem to feel about competitive Halo now, which is just very unfortunate and sad, in my opinion. But that game's done for without live service. The same applies to Siege. Rainbow Six Patriots was too freaking hot. That game needed to come out in 2011, not 2016. It missed its window. That's why it got shelved. People commonly compare Siege to Vegas 2. The only thing that Siege and Vegas 2 have in common with each other is the name. It's not Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Vegas 3. It's Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. Siege is a self-contained thing. It is a self-contained idea with concepts that do have some inspiration from the previous games, but it's an original idea. It's an original concept that was developed in-house at Ubisoft. You cannot do 2008 anymore. You cannot release a game for $60, have a campaign, have a multiplayer, and then just not add anything for another 3 months. You have to constantly tender it. There are no good options. The existence of Rainbow Six Siege does not mean the non-existence of Rainbow Six Vegas 3. This isn't a Titanfall 3 to Apex kind of situation. EA has a ton of money that they're just sitting on with Titanfall 3. Why did Vince go to the VGAs and then... what? A lot of time when it comes to gaming, we attribute what we think is attributed to malicious pragmatism and putting money above everything else, when we should attribute just incompetence. Maybe it's just an American thing. I don't know how other people feel, but one of the things that we, you know, for better or worse, kind of feel in terms of our individualistic nature is that we secretly kind of feel like we can call the shots better than somebody who has like 20 times the amount of experience as us. We feel this way because sometimes we see people in positions of power and authority just do ridiculous fucking shit, and we just can't find a rational explanation for it. Because even if you were an evil, big, pragmatic corpo type, because if you were, you wouldn't have handled it the way Activision Blizzard handled Overwatch. The way Activision Blizzard handled Overwatch was getting bought out by Microsoft. That's not a W. Like, you lost. You failed. It's all about the dollar bills, baby. What are you talking about? What? It's just business, baby. You suck. You failed. This is why other people who work in bigger sectors like finance, shit like that, right? Like on Wall Street, the gaming industry is a laughingstock to these people. It's a game of poker, and these gaming executives never know when to fold. That's why the industry is the way it is. It's a lot of short-term profits, 3-month profit window here, 3-month window here, 3-month window here. Money moves around so freaking fast in this industry, it'll make your head spin. There's no liquid for anything. There's no cash on hand to make as many big projects anymore. I think people have this weird, overly romanticized idea of what the Xbox 360 era of gaming looked like, as if there was no corporate overhead, there was no drama about suits getting involved in what the devs were doing and how much leverage the publishers had versus the developers. We had a lot of the same issues that we complain about now happening back then. We just didn't have algorithmic entertainment to push it to people's feeds and to get people to talk about it. Sentiment is a product in the algorithmic age. Sentiment, mood, vibe is a product. It is a commodity that is sellable now. If you want your favorite multiplayer games to keep the servers on, you have to provide income streams. It seems a lot of the time these arguments seem to come from a place of, I don't like multiplayer gaming, not I don't like Siege. Siege is what Siege is. A live service multiplayer game with new characters and maps added regularly. You either like it for that, or you hate it for that. And for all the flack Ubisoft gets, I seriously do not envy their position. But that's all I got to say about the TDM meta and the defender-sided meta we're in. Let me know what you guys think about it. Do you think the game is too defender-sided? And what are your supposed solutions for it? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Take care. Deuces.